I still remember the way the door handle felt in my palm. Cold, heavy, like it already knew what was waiting for me on the other side. I pushed the door open with a soft click, expecting laughter, music, the warm noise of people who love you. Instead, the whole room went silent. Not the normal kind of quiet. Not the polite kind. This was the kind of silence that swallows air. Every head turned. Every eye locked onto one place. And that place was my husband. Standing too close. Smiling too comfortably. With my sister. My younger sister, Lena, who I practically raised when our mother worked double shifts. Lena, who called me my second mom when she needed comfort. Lena, who cried in my arms after her first heartbreak. Now she was standing there, with my husband's hand resting on her lower back like it belonged there, like she belonged there. For 1 second my mind refused to accept it. It tried to protect me like, no, this is a misunderstanding. This is just a weird angle. This is just nothing. But then my husband looked up, and his face changed. Not surprise. Not confusion. Guilt. The kind that confesses without words. In that frozen moment, I felt something split inside me, like my heart didn't shatter loudly. It broke silently, the way ice cracks under pressure. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else looked away. Lena. Lena's lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. I stood there, holding my purse strap so tight my fingers went numb. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But something else rose up in me first. Something colder. Something steadier. A question that burned through my chest. How long have you been humiliating me in front of people who smile to my face? I took one step into the room, and the silence grew heavier. My husband finally said my name. Careful. Like I was a bomb he didn't know how to defuse. Amara. That's when I realized something terrible. This wasn't the beginning of the betrayal. This was the moment it got caught. And I was about to find out how deep it really went. But the worst part, I didn't even come here for them. I came here because I thought I was being celebrated. And now, I was walking into a trap with my own name on it. If you looked at my life from the outside, you'd think I was lucky. A good husband, steady home, close family, a sister who was like my best friend. My husband's name is Cameron. He was charming in a quiet way, always opening doors, always remembering little things, always saying the right words in front of other people. And I believed him. We weren't perfect. No couple is. But I thought we were real. We had built routines. Friday night takeout, Sunday morning coffee, little jokes only we understood. Lena lived nearby. She would stop by after work, sometimes stay for dinner. She'd sit at my kitchen counter, kicking her feet, talking about her day like she still lived with me. When she had money problems, I helped. When she needed a place to cry, I held her. When she wanted to change careers, I pushed her to go for it. Cameron acted supportive too. He'd smile and say, "She's lucky to have you." And I'd smile back, proud of the life I was holding together. But looking back now, there were signs. Little things I brushed off because I didn't want to be that wife. The jealous one. The suspicious one. Cameron started guarding his phone like it had secrets in it. He'd turn the screen away. He'd step outside to take calls. When I asked, he'd laugh lightly and say, "Work stuff. You know how it is." Lena. Lena started dressing differently when she came over. More makeup. More perfume. She'd linger in the mirror in my hallway like she was preparing for a spotlight. I told myself she was just finding confidence. Then there were the weird moments. The quick glances between them. The inside jokes that didn't include me. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and they'd stop talking mid-sentence. And I'd stand there like a fool, smiling, asking, "What did I miss?" Cameron would say, "Nothing, babe," and kiss my forehead. Lena would say, "Just something stupid." And I believed them. 'Cause I loved them. Because family is supposed to be safe. What I didn't know was that while I was busy being the glue, they were busy testing how far they could push me before I cracked. Then one day, Cameron said something that should have made me suspicious instantly. He came home with that calm smile and told me, "We're going to a small gathering tonight. Surprise thing. Wear something nice." A surprise for who? Yes. He hesitated just a second too long. "For you," he said. And my heart actually warmed. I thought, finally. Maybe he's trying again. I had no idea I was walking straight into the moment where my whole world would go quiet. That afternoon I did my hair with extra care. I even put on the earrings Cameron once said made me look elegant. Sounds silly now. But I wanted to feel chosen. Because lately, I felt like I was sharing space with a man who was only half present. Cameron had been tired for months. Too tired for long talks. Too tired for date nights. Too tired for me. But never too tired for his phone. He'd smile at messages. He'd type quickly, then lock the screen the second I walked by. And Lena, she'd been showing up more often. First it felt normal. She was my sister. My family. But then she started showing up when Cameron was home. Always. And when he wasn't home, she barely came by at all. One day I asked her casually, "You've been coming over a lot lately. Everything okay?" She laughed too fast. "Yeah. I just like being here." Then she added, "It feels stable." Stable. That word stuck to my mind like a burr. Because stability was what I provided. And I thought I was providing it for both of them. Another crack appeared a week before the silent room moment. Cameron asked me to sign something. Some papers. He said it was related to a new business opportunity, and that it could help us buy a bigger place. I didn't even read it properly. That's the part that still makes me feel sick. I trusted him the way you trust someone who shares your bed, your bills, your future. Sign. He kissed my cheek and said, "Thank you, love. You won't regret this." And I believed him. Because who would build a trap using your signature? Then 2 nights later I couldn't sleep. I got up for water and saw a light under the office door. Cameron was in there, whispering on the phone. I paused outside, not meaning to listen, just curious. I heard him say, "She has no idea." "Yeah, it's done, she signed it." My stomach tightened. Then he chuckled softly and added, "Just be ready. The timing matters." I stepped back quietly, heart pounding, telling myself, "It's probably about work." But deep down, a voice inside me whispered, "What if it's not?" The next day, Lena texted me, "Can I borrow your black dress? The fitted one." My black dress. The one Cameron always liked. I stared at the message for a long time. A normal sister would just ask, right? But something about it felt like a test. Like she wanted to wear my skin for a night. I replied, "Sure." Then I sat there, holding my phone, feeling a tight pressure behind my eyes. I should have confronted them then. But I didn't. Because betrayal doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like tiny drops, until you realize you're drowning. And that night, dressed up and hopeful, I followed my husband to the place where the room would go silent, and my life would split in two. The building was a private event hall. Warm lights, fancy chairs, a little stage at the front. I saw familiar faces. People from Cameron's world. A few of my relatives too. I felt nervous in a sweet way. Maybe he's renewing vows, my silly heart thought. Maybe he's apologizing. Maybe he's finally showing me off again. Cameron walked slightly ahead of me, not holding my hand. That should have been another sign. I followed him through the entrance, smiling at people. Then I stepped into the main room. And everything stopped. The music didn't just fade. Felt like someone cut it with scissors. Conversations died mid-word. A glass clinked somewhere and the sound felt loud, embarrassing, wrong. And there they were. Cameron. Lena. Not seated far apart like normal people. Not standing with a group like siblings-in-law would. They were together, alone, near the stage like the center of the story. Cameron's arm was around her. Not friendly. Not casual. Possessive. And Lena's hand was resting on his chest like she'd done it 100 times. I noticed the details like my brain was taking pictures it would punish me with later. Her dress. My black dress. The fitted one. My throat went dry. My ears rang. I didn't even realize I had stopped walking until Cameron turned fully toward me. His eyes widened slightly, but not in surprise like, "What are you doing here?" More like, "Oh no, she found out earlier than planned." And Lena's face. Lena looked like a child caught stealing. The room was full of people I knew. People who had hugged me. People who had eaten my food. People who had called me such a strong woman. Now they stared at me like I was a scene in a movie. I felt heat climb up my neck. Cameron took a step forward. "Amara, listen." I held up my hand. My voice came out calm, which shocked even me. "Why is everyone staring?" I asked, looking around. Did I miss something? Nobody answered. I looked back at Lena. "Are you wearing my dress?" Her lips trembled. I can explain." Cameron cut in quickly. "This isn't what it looks like." That sentence. That exact sentence. It's almost funny how unoriginal betrayal is. I walked closer, slow, steady, like I was approaching an open flame. "What is it then?" I asked quietly. Cameron swallowed. "We were just talking." I nodded once. "With your hand on her back." Lena finally spoke, voice small. "Amara, please. Please." Like I was the one doing something wrong. I turned to the crowd. "So what is this event?" Since my husband said it was a surprise for me. A man near the front shifted uncomfortably. Someone whispered my name. Then an older woman, someone from Cameron's side, muttered loud enough for me to hear. "It was supposed to be announced tonight." Announced. My heart beat once hard. What was supposed to be announced? I asked, staring at Cameron. He didn't answer. And that silence confirmed everything. Because if it was innocent, he would have defended it loudly. Instead, he stood there, lips pressed together, eyes begging me not to explode. That's when I realized the room wasn't silent because they were shocked I arrived. The room was silent because everyone already knew. And I was the last person to find out. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a glass. I didn't make the dramatic scene people expected. I just smiled. A slow, controlled smile that didn't reach my eyes. Then I said, "I need some air." And I walked out. Not because I was weak, but because I refused to fall apart in front of an audience that had watched my humiliation like entertainment. Outside, the night air hit my face, and that's when my legs started shaking. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I wanted to call someone. Anyone. But then I realized. Who could I call when my own sister was the one holding the knife? Cameron followed me out, trying to keep his voice low. "Amara, please. Let's talk privately." I turned to him. "Privately? Like all those private messages you've been hiding?" His face twitched. "You don't understand." "I understand plenty," I said. I walked in and saw my husband holding my sister. In my dress. In front of a crowd that already knew. His mouth opened then closed. I asked the question that mattered most. "How long?" He looked away. That was my answer. Then Lena came out too, eyes glossy, acting like the victim. "Amara, I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. I stared at her. "Then why did you?" She shook her head. "It just happened." I laughed once, sharp, bitter. Nothing just happens for months. Cameron stepped between us. "Stop. This isn't the time." I leaned closer, voice low. "Oh, it's the perfect time. 'Cause I think you planned this. I think you invited people tonight to announce something." Cameron's jaw tightened. Lena whispered, "It's not like that." I stepped back and said, "Go back inside. Enjoy your event." Then I got in my car and drove home, barely seeing the road through the blur in my eyes. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't cry like I thought I would. Instead, I started remembering things. The papers I signed. The phone calls. The words. "She has no idea she signed it." At 3:12 a.m., I opened my laptop and searched through our shared files. And that's when the betrayal got bigger. There were documents tied to a business account, a new company, and the names listed. Cameron and Lena. Not me. But the signature attached to certain approvals was mine. My chest tightened. I looked deeper. Bank activity, transfers, emails. Slowly, a picture formed. They weren't just betraying me emotionally. They were using me. Using my clean credit. Using my trust. Using my name to open doors. They were building a new life together on my foundation. And then it hit me like a wave. That event wasn't just about love. It was about replacing me. Publicly. Legally. Financially. They wanted to erase me and walk away smiling. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen, feeling the first real tear slide down my cheek. Not from heartbreak. From rage. Because if they wanted to destroy me quietly, they were about to learn what happens when the woman you underestimated stops being polite. Revenge doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes revenge looks like silence, too. The difference is, my silence wasn't helpless anymore. It was strategic. The next morning, Cameron texted me like nothing had happened. Let's talk. I'm sorry you saw it like that. Saw it like that. Like my eyes were the problem. I didn't reply. Instead, I did 3 things. First, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my family. Because when betrayal involves family, people start begging you to forgive before you've even processed what happened. So I went straight to someone who deals in facts, not feelings. The lawyer listened quietly as I explained everything. Affair, documents, my signature, the business. Then she said words that made my stomach twist. If your signature was used without informed consent, and if assets were moved, we can act quickly. But you need proof. Proof. That became my focus. Second, I gathered evidence. I printed documents. Saved emails. I screenshotted transactions. I backed everything up in 3 places because I didn't trust my own home anymore. I even checked the dates. And the dates told me the ugliest truth. This wasn't a sudden mistake. This was a long-term plan. Third, I played my role. I answered Cameron later that day with a short message. I need time. I'm embarrassed. I can't talk yet. He replied instantly. I understand. Take your time. Of course he did. Because he thought my time would be spent crying, not building a case. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched them like someone watching thieves in a store, waiting for the moment they reached for the exit. Lena posted quotes about choosing happiness. Cameron started coming home late again, claiming business meetings. Smiled. He nodded. I acted distant but not suspicious. Inside I was counting. Because my lawyer found something important. They were planning a public launch for their business soon. A big announcement where investors would be present. And my signature, my name, had helped them get that far. My lawyer said, if we time it right, we can freeze assets, expose fraud, and control the narrative. Control the narrative. That mattered. Because the room that went silent that night wasn't just a room. It was a message. It was them saying, we can humiliate you and people will watch. So I decided I would give them an audience again. But this time, I would be the one holding the microphone. I reached out to the event organizer quietly, using an innocent excuse. I heard there's a business announcement coming. I'd love to support my husband. Can I attend? The organizer sounded awkward but said yes. Course. Because to the public I was still the wife. And Cameron, he never stopped me. He thought I was still blind. He thought I was still soft. He thought wrong. The night of the launch, I wore a simple outfit. Nothing dramatic. I didn't want attention for my clothes. I wanted attention for the truth. As I parked my car, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked tired, but they looked clear. And I whispered to myself, tonight you don't beg to be loved. Tonight you remind them who they tried to erase. Then I stepped out of the car and walked toward the lights. The event hall was louder than the first one. More people, more cameras, more smiles that weren't real. I walked in calmly like I belonged there. 'Cause I did. The stage was decorated with their new brand logo. Cameron stood in a suit, confident, like a man who thought he'd already won. Lena stood beside him, glowing, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Something expensive. They looked like a power couple. And people clapped for them. I took a seat near the front. Cameron spotted me and froze for half a second. Then he forced a smile, the kind you give when you're trying to keep a lie standing. The host started speaking about innovation and partnership and family values. Family values. I almost laughed. Then Cameron took the microphone. He spoke smoothly, thanking investors, thanking supporters, telling a story about how love and ambition built this dream. And Lena watched him like he was her hero. My stomach turned, but my face stayed calm. Because my lawyer had already filed paperwork earlier that day. All we needed now was the moment. Cameron ended his speech by saying, "None of this would be possible without the people who believed in us." Then he looked at Lena, smiling, and said, "And without the courage to choose what's real." The crowd clapped, and I stood up. Just like that. A ripple of confusion moved through the room. The host blinked. Ma'am." I smiled politely. "I am Amara, Cameron's wife." The word wife hit the room like a dropped plate. Cameron's smile collapsed. Lena's face drained of color. I continued, voice steady, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm here because I want to congratulate them too. This is impressive." People murmured. Cameras turned. Cameron stepped forward quickly, whispering harshly, "What are you doing?" I looked at him sweetly. "Supporting you. Isn't that what you said you wanted?" Then I turned back to the audience. "I just have a small question," I said. "When you heard their story tonight, did they mention how they funded this company?" A man in the crowd frowned. Someone shifted uncomfortably. Cameron said sharply, "Amara, stop." I raised a hand gently. "No. I think people deserve to know what they're clapping for." Then I did the part that made my heart pound like thunder. I held up a folder. "Here are the documents," I said. "My signature was used for approvals I was never informed about. Funds were moved from shared accounts. And the company was registered without my knowledge, while my credit and legal identity were used to support it." The room went silent again. But this silence, this one belonged to me. I looked straight at Lena. "My sister," I said, letting the words hang. "The same sister who used to call me her second mother." Lena started shaking her head, whispering, "No, no." Cameron tried to grab the microphone, but the host stepped back, startled. I continued, voice calm but cutting. "I also want to clarify something. This is not a misunderstanding. This has been going on for months. And the people closest to me, my husband and my sister, decided it was easier to betray me than to face me." Few gasped. A few angry murmurs. An investor near the front said, "Is this true?" Cameron's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Because lies are fragile in bright light. Then 2 security staff approached. Not for me. For Cameron. Because my lawyer had coordinated with the right people. The financial freeze was already in motion. A representative stepped forward and said, "Sir, we need you to come with us. There are questions regarding the company's funding and documentation." Cameron looked at me like I had become a stranger. Like he couldn't believe I had teeth. Lena looked like she was shrinking into her own skin. I leaned toward the microphone one last time and said quietly, "You didn't just betray my heart. You tried to steal my life." Then I stepped back. And the applause that followed wasn't for them. It was for the truth. After that night, everything moved fast. People love drama, but they love accountability even more, especially when money is involved. Cameron's phone started ringing non-stop. Investors pulled back. Partnerships vanished. Meetings got cancelled. The company launch didn't just fail. Collapse. And Lena didn't post her "choose happiness" quotes anymore. For the first time, she disappeared. Cameron came home late that night, eyes bloodshot, face tight with anger. He didn't even pretend anymore. He slammed the door and hissed, "You ruined everything." I looked up from the couch. "No," I said. "You ruined everything. I just turned on the lights." He pointed at me like I was the villain. You could have handled this privately. I laughed softly. Like you did. His face twisted. You think you're some hero now? I don't think I'm a hero, I said. I think I'm a woman who finally stopped protecting people who were harming her. He paced, running his hands through his hair. You don't understand what you did. They're investigating everything. He nodded. Good. He froze. Good. Yes, I said, standing up slowly. Because I've spent months feeling crazy. Doubting myself. Wondering why I wasn't enough. I stepped closer. But now I know the truth. This was never about me being enough. This was about you being selfish. Cameron's voice dropped. Lena and I. We love each other. I stared at him. Love doesn't need to steal. Love doesn't need to lie. Love doesn't need an audience to humiliate someone. He clenched his jaw. You're doing this because you're bitter. Smiled. No. I'm doing this because I'm awake. 2 days later, Lena showed up at my door. Alone. No makeup. No confidence. No expensive dress. Just tears. The moment I opened the door, she started crying. Amara, please. I didn't mean. I held up my hand. Stop. She flinched. I don't want to hear excuses, I said. I want to hear the truth. She swallowed. He told me you didn't appreciate him. He said you were cold. He said you were planning to leave anyway. My stomach twisted. Course. That's what people like Cameron do. They rewrite reality so they can justify betrayal. I looked at Lena, voice quiet. And you believed him, because it benefited you. She cried harder. I was lonely. I felt invisible. And he made me feel special. Finished. She nodded. I stepped back and said words that felt like closing a door inside my heart. I made you feel special for years. Protected you. I supported you. I loved you. Pause. And you repaid me by helping him try to replace me. Lena shook her head. I didn't want to replace you. But you did, I said. Silence stretched between us. Then I added softer. The saddest part is, you didn't steal my husband. She looked up confused. I said, you stole my sister. Her face collapsed. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I simply said, I can't carry you anymore. And I closed it gently. That night I sat alone and for the first time, finally cried. Not because I missed them. Because I was grieving the version of my life that never existed. And as painful as it was, it also felt like freedom. A month later, my divorce papers were finalized. I won't pretend it was easy. There were tense meetings, uncomfortable calls, people choosing sides. Some relatives told me, you should forgive. You should keep the peace. But I learned something important. Peace that costs you your dignity isn't peace. It's surrender. Cameron tried apologizing when he realized he couldn't manipulate the situation anymore. He sent messages like, I made mistakes. I didn't mean for it to go that far. You embarrassed me. That last one told me everything. Even in his apology, he was still thinking about himself. And Lena, she never fully faced me again. I heard through family that she moved in with a friend, that she lost her job connection through Cameron's network, that she fell into a quiet depression. And for a moment I felt something like pity. Then I remembered the silent room. Eyes. A shame. And I realized, consequences aren't cruelty. They're reality. As for me, I rebuilt. Changed my locks. I separated my finances completely. I started sleeping without feeling like the bed was a battlefield. I reconnected with friends I had neglected while I was busy being the strong wife. Took long walks. I started cooking again. Not for approval, not for tradition, but because it soothed me. And one day, I caught myself laughing at something small. Real laugh. Not forced. Not polite. And it hit me. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time. Betrayal can make you feel like you're unlovable. Like you're not enough. But the truth is, people don't betray you because you're not enough. They betray you because they're hungry for more than they deserve. And if you let them, they'll take and take and take, until there's nothing left of you. That's why I'm telling this story. 'Cause maybe you've felt that cold silence too. Maybe you've walked into a room and realized everyone knows something you don't. Maybe you've been made to feel small by the people who were supposed to protect you. Here's what I learned. You don't get justice by begging people to love you correctly. You get justice by loving yourself enough to stop accepting lies. I didn't win because Cameron and Lena suffered. I won because I didn't let their betrayal define my ending. I wrote a new one. And the moral: never ignore the quiet moments that make your stomach twist. Never sign your trust away without proof. And never confuse loyalty with self-sacrifice. Because the right people won't ask you to bleed just to keep them warm. And if the whole room goes silent, don't shrink. Stand taller. Sometimes that silence is the sound of the truth finally arriving.